And so welcome. While they're getting their screen shared, I'm Jenny Nowak. This is Plus One Solutions, and we are doing a three-part series on what it looks like to be an RBT supervisor. So we are glad that you are here. And ladies, take it away. Introduce yourselves and let's get started.
All right, welcome everyone. So our training tonight is RBT Supervision and Responsibilities in Practice. And I'm Jessica Murphy.
I'm Karen Watson.
So today we're going to focus on what RBT supervision looks like in practice, what's required, why it matters, and how to do it effectively. So the objectives were understand RBT supervision requirements, learn about supervisor roles and responsibilities, explore supervision activities, feedback, modeling, fidelity, practice documentation and compliance tracking. So think about this as both a compliance training and a practical skills workshop. And this is a brief overview, and we'll have more trainings to come that will go a little bit more into depth.
Okay, so why supervision matters. Supervision is what keeps ABA effective, ethical, and accountable. Without it, we risk client harm and professional consequences. It ensures in treatment integrity. It protects clients' rights and safety. It supports RBT professional growth, and it is required for certification renewal, which we'll get to that part. And so just a little quick question. What is one way supervision has helped you improve your practice? Anyone want to share?
I can share. I know when I first started with Jenny, I wasn't in like an ABA clinic, so I didn't really have a supervisor while I was like in school until I got with Jenny. And even though I was in school, it wasn't until like I got with her and like started doing like supervision and just our like one-on-one talks that things started to click. So she helped me make it make more sense.
Same. Anyone
Yeah,
else?
I think the data accuracy, like she's helped me be able to track data, graph data. That they went over that in university, but not in depth like Jenny has for me. So that's been helpful.
The fidelity checks is another good point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even the ethical awareness, like, I know we focused on that in group a while. Just diving into the ethics a little bit more was helpful.
Yes, everything y'all have said, the same for me, as well as just building my confidence in like professional growth, because Zoom and talking in the school system, we have to do trainings and stuff, and I've never been really comfortable with, but this is definitely broadened us speaking in front of everyone and slowing down my speed. So, all right. Okay. So RBT supervision requirements. Supervision should be active and applied. It is not just paperwork, it is skill building. So these are the basic overview of requirements, and we're going to kind of dive in deeper a little bit in the future trainings. But the requirements are 5% of total hours supervised monthly, a minimum 2 contacts per month, 1 individual and 1 group allowed. At least 1 direct observation with client monthly, and group cannot exceed individual hours. So you cannot have more group hours than your individual hours. So an example would be if you work 80 hours in a month, 4 hours must be supervised. At least 1 of those hours must be individual, and then 1 must be an observation. So we're going to do, let's make you think for a little bit. If you worked 100 hours, how many supervision hours do you need?
Are calculators okay?
Sure.
You want them to shout it out or in the chat?
Yeah, that's fine. Anyone know the answer? Math's never been my strong point either, so I've used my calculator.
That's correct, Jenny. I see your comment.
Okay. I can't see comments, so yes, Jessica.
So 5 is the
Woo! 5. Did everyone get 5? Okay, great. All right.
Okay, so let's talk about what actually counts as supervision. So what counts and why it matters. Activities that do count towards supervision are direct observation of the RBT working with a client, and that can be in person or live via telehealth. Performance feedback sessions following observation. You could be discussing strengths, errors, next steps. Modeling or role play of behavior analytic procedures, which would be your prompting, reinforcement, data collection. Reviewing and analyzing data the RBT collected to inform decision-making. Discussing ethical dilemmas and how to apply the RBT ethics code. Reviewing written programs or behavior plans to ensure understanding and fidelity. Problem-solving client challenges collaboratively, how to handle non-compliance, transitions, etc. Training on new skill acquisition or behavior reduction procedures. So every supervised hour should be behavior analytic in nature, meaning it directly improves client outcomes or the RBT's ability to deliver behavior and analytic services. Supervision can happen during an observation in the classroom, during a role play and training, or when reviewing data for a student session. The key is that there's interaction, performance feedback, and connection to treatment integrity or ethics. So activities that do not count towards supervision: administrative or scheduling meetings, general staff meetings without individualized feedback, RBT independently reviewing materials or online modules without supervisor involvement, any contact that doesn't directly relate to client care, ethics, or skill development. And the required distribution must be ongoing and individualized. At least one session per month must be face-to-face and include direct observation. Supervision activities should occur across multiple sessions, not just one long monthly meeting. So common mistakes could be logging, planning, or prep meetings as supervision. That's not allowed. Counting time spent entering data or doing paperwork. That's not considered supervision. Having 1 3-hour supervision session once a month. That doesn't meet the ongoing requirement. So a good supervision program includes short, frequent, focused contacts that build skill and maintain quality. As supervisors, we're not just checking compliance boxes, we're providing coaching, mentorship, and modeling that directly translates into better client outcomes. As RBTs, supervision is your opportunity to get feedback, ask questions, and continue learning beyond your initial training. So let's think about your last few supervision meetings. Which of those activities would actually count toward BACB supervision requirements? So we'll do what do you think would count and what do you think wouldn't count? Just throw out some.
I would say modeling.
Modeling would count, yes. Would a general staff training count? No, it would not. Would email communication count?
Hmm.
No. What about a data review?
Yeah.
I would say yes. Anything else y'all can think of?
Like an ethical discussion.
Yep, that would count. And you mentioned it earlier, fidelity checks.
Mhm.
Those would count. But if I did a self-review alone, it wouldn't count. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
So for you guys doing your BCBA, whatever the letters are, trainee supervision, you guys can send me videos that I review, and that's legal. It
Yeah.
sounds like that is not legal for RBTs, that it can be over telehealth, but it has to be live and in the moment.
Yes. That's the way I
Okay.
have read it and we have documented.
Yep, that's what I got out of that also. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so supervisor roles. This structure helps keep accountability clear. RBT should always know who their requirements coordinator is. So the RBT supervisor is a BCBA or BCABA, and they provide supervision. The requirements coordinator ensures consistency if multiple supervisors are involved. So one person is assigned to kind of manage them. And both are accountable to BACB rules. So we're going to do a little check-in question. Have you ever had more than one supervisor? And if you have, was it helpful or confusing if you've had more than one supervisor?
Both. I've had more than one supervisor. It just depends on what it was that was happening, made it confusing. Sometimes it's helpful because you could talk with one on the other, but it just depends on what what the discussion was about. Because some BCBAs do things differently than others. So like when I worked in the clinic, and I worked with one client that was on one BCBA's caseload, she believed that certain words or things that we did in communication should be paired differently than the other BCBA. So when you worked with that client, she didn't want you to just use more. She wanted you to do more than that. So I think that was kind of confusing. I mean, until you learn what this person or that person wants, but it gives you something to talk about.
Any other one? Anybody else?
I was kind of just going to say what Rachel was saying. You get kind of like two directions, because it's always like two people, they're totally different, so they're gonna want things differently, and so you're like always like balancing that. That's what I found when I've had multiple supervisors.
Yeah, I had written down, like, I think you would get mixed feedback. So you really wouldn't know where to go with that. And then depending on if they talk or not, there could be a lack of coordination between the two, and then unclear documentation, who does what, when, that kind of thing. So those are a few things I wrote like on mine, like under confusing, I would think, but I haven't had that problem, but.
Yes, I think it'd be a great idea to have like a designated point person. So like that coordinating person is the one who delivers all the feedback or, instructions. So everyone's on the same page. Because I feel like you could get mixed messages. I've also not had more than one supervisor, so I cannot speak on that.
Yeah. Any other comments on that?
Jenny, have you had that experience?
Absolutely. From the supervisor side of things, you guys know I'm at least minimally opinionated. Pretty convinced on the things I'm convinced of. And absolutely. And I tell you guys, I'm not currently working in a clinic with young people. I work in a clinic with adults. And so the whole thing is different. And so, yes, I have technicians or I have school personnel that get feedback and information and instructions from other people, whether they're behavior analysts or SPED directors or whoever they are, that want you to do it one way. And I'm saying, yeah, well, let's consider doing it another way. And it doesn't put you guys in the middle of that. I have no legal power to make you do anything, but I believe in best practice in our ABA world. So it does get a little, I don't know if I would say confusing, but multiple points of input makes you guys have to choose, which is not all bad, but can be work.
All right. So This is where it gets really important. We always hear, even in like school system, data, documentation, document it. So documentation is the paper trail that proves supervision happened. No log, no credit. So this is very important. Supervision logs must include RBT and supervisor's name, their ID numbers. So when you, even RBTs, when you go onto the little website, it'll give you the little ID number, the date, the duration, and type of supervision, the total hours versus their supervised hours, their direct observation record, and supervisor and RBT signature. So I am going to try to share some with you if I can get it. Okay, so I'm going to share 3 little spreadsheets with you. The first one is going to be a blank one. So you can see, and these are all new to Jessica and I as well. So this is an RBT supervision log. So you'll see the top where it talks about the RBT's name, their ID number, the supervisor, the BCBA, and their ID as well. You'll put the date, the duration, if it was a group, individual, in person, telehealth, hour summary, and then supervision activities. So if you notice under supervision activities where it lists the activity type, it says direct observation, performance feedback, modeling, role play, ethics discussion. So you'll check when it was completed, what activity. But if you look under notes, next to direct observation, it says, if checked, you must fill out a fidelity check below. So if you are directly observing the RBT with the client, you will fill out a fidelity check. Does that make sense? Okay. We'll get to the bottom. So you'll have the setting of the being in a classroom, in a clinic, the client's initials, and the target behaviors observed. But down here, a little fidelity check, you'll see where it's broken into different components. You have professionalism, workflow task steps, reactive strategies, and documentation. It also has your rating, and at the bottom here's a key. So you'll say no if the supervisor did not see it, 1 if they did not implement it, 2 if they implemented it differently, or 3 implemented to fidelity or correctly. And you'll be able to circle that. You can also note the strengths observed, areas of improvement, or next steps and action plan. So this will be the fidelity part of it. And then at the bottom, it is required that the supervisor and the RBT sign it. Has anyone ever seen a form like this before? Maybe you, Raquel, Michelle? Never get your name right. Sorry.
That's okay. Similar. We did use a similar form when I was in the clinic, not specifically like this, but yeah, similar, where we did have to log what we did do, and who we worked with, and when the BCBA was in there. She kept track of it too, but as RBT we did as well. And then we would have to sign them every month.
Kind of like cross-reference it to make sure everything matched up.
Yeah, I assume the fidelity part of it was done on hers, because then we have, like, after I got my 90 days and I had evaluation, but I didn't see that side of it, but I definitely had to check what I did, and we did that every month to verify. So she would all send messages out, who do I need to see, who still needs supervision, who still needs to get their 5% or what have you. So yeah.
Wow. That's a good idea.
So she put that on the RBT?
No, so what it would be like is, like, if she was going around doing it and we were filling it out, there would be some people that need to be seen more than others.
Right, because they have a fuller caseload.
Yeah, so she would kind of just ask, like, who still needs more supervision, especially like in the clinic, there's it's very high turnover and a lot of call-ins and stuff. So like, depending on, and your hours as far as direct change. So I might not work the entire time with a client. I might have admin duties for a certain period of time. So based on how many hours, you may need more or less time. So I think it was more of a cross check than anything, to kind of see, because they had a spreadsheet that we shared,
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, she still had access, you know, like in Central Reach, she would always still have her calendar, have access to who she saw as well, because they would have to clock in just like
Mm-hmm.
we did. But it's an easy way for us to make sure, because we do, as RBTs, you have to, when you redo your certification, you do have to acknowledge whether you have 5%. So there is a level of responsibility as RBTs as well, because you are saying that you received that 5% as well when you're doing your renewal. So I guess that is on you, and the fact that if you don't and you say you did and you get audited, you know, so yeah, but she was really good about it. Not
Mm.
everybody is that way. I've definitely had supervisors where I felt like I was doing most of it, but I feel like with her, it was balanced. So if I missed a few or whatever, it wasn't like, oh my God, this is about to be a problem.
From the supervisor's point of view, it's really helpful when that works as a joint venture, but legally and ethically. So ethically, from the certification, recertification point of view, the handbook says that's my responsibility to make sure I provide your 5%. And insurance wise, legally, if I am billing that I provided supervision, that's on me. And I have an authorization that says I will supervise 8 hours, which is 5% of a 40-hour week. That's legally on me. That's not on you guys. But it's nice when it does work both ways and you guys are proactive and say, hey, I still need an hour this month.
Now, I worked at 2 clinics within the same company, you know, because I worked one in San Antonio and one in Houston. Now, the one in San Antonio, she did it all.
Okay.
She did type it all. She did it all. So at the end, you just really had to go through it and sign it.
Okay.
But the one in Houston, there were times where she was like, does anybody still need me to observe them?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Anyone have anything else about this? We're going to look at a completed one now. If I can get back to it. This is one that is completed. The sample one, just so you can see where it's filled out. So we put the RBT's name, their number, name, their number. Was the date, was 1 hour, it was individual, it was in person. Talks about the month, supervised, their total hours, as well as the activities that were completed. The initials, it was in a self-contained elementary autism classroom. We talk about the target behaviors that were observed. And then if performance feedback was completed. And then it was signed and dated. Just so you can kind of see when that was completed. Any questions on that? All right. And we will share the spreadsheets at the end with you with the PowerPoint. Or Jenny will. Okay, and the last thing we're gonna look at is the RBT tracker. So documentation, documentation, documentation. So this is the RBT tracker. Jenny shared this with us. So this is very organized and gives you kind of a clear picture. You'll see that it's got the client's name, so you can put the client's name, the BCBA visits per month, the hours, the differences, the 5%. So each column is designated to long. So you can kind of look to see, okay, number 4, or that person is only got, doesn't have their 5%, or they still need a group session. They've only had 2 visits this month. Kind of gives it the big picture. Clear. Jenny, do you want to speak anything about this tracker? This is yours.
No, but we might go into it again on one of your future trainings.
Yes, I think it is on the second training, right, Jessica?
I think so.
Okay.
We will dive into it a little deeper, but just a quick overview of some of the documentation that is going to be required. All right, let's go back to my slideshow. Get y'all out of my way.
Okay, so consequences of non-compliance. Hours may be disqualified. Risk of losing certification. Supervisors can face ethics violations, and clients may be harmed. So the BACB does not accept almost right. If hours aren't documented correctly, they don't count. So we're going to do a quick little quiz, true or false. If you forget to get your supervisor's signature, you can add it the next year. True or
True.
false? False. So hours are invalid without timely signatures. Everybody got that? We're good? Okay. So self-reporting. Who must self-report? The answer to that is the RBT. RBTs are required to notify the BACB within 30 days if any of the following occur. Supervision or employment lapses, so you're not participating under supervision. Ethical violations or disciplinary actions. Legal or criminal charges. Physical or mental health conditions that may impair competent practice. Name, email, or employer changes. So self-reporting is the RBT's direct responsibility under the BACB code. If an RBT goes unsupervised, violates an ethical standard, or experiences a condition that could affect their ability to work safely, they must report it within 30 days through their BACB account. However, supervisors, BCBAs, are also ethically obligated to report their own violations or any known serious violations by the supervisee if it poses a risk to clients. So in summary, RBTs self-report about themselves, supervisors report about themselves or unresolved supervisee issues. So I'm going to pose a scenario to you. An RBT received no supervision for 1 month, but doesn't report it. What risks are involved? Any thoughts on that? Could the supervisor get in trouble? Yes. So the supervisor could. The BCBA is responsible for ensuring that supervision occurs and is documented properly. If they knew about the lapse and did nothing, that's also a potential ethics violation.
And I think it has something to do also with the billing and insurance purposes if they're saying they are and they're not.
Right. So that's a good point. Some funders and school districts require proof of supervision. If that documentation is missing, services could be non-billable or lead to audit findings.
Okay. And
could they be out of compliance with the BACB? Yes, of course. The RBT is not meeting the 5% supervision requirement, which means they are technically practicing unethically and outside the BACB guidelines. There's several other issues that could come up, and I'll just run through those. They could lose their certification. It is an ethics violation because the code requires self-reporting within 30 days. It could affect your client's treatment. Without supervision, the RBT might drift from correct procedures, collect inaccurate data, or use ineffective strategies. It could damage professional trust, and it could lead to a corrective action plan or an investigation. Any questions on that? Okay.
So clarify for me. So the RBT has no supervision for a month. So that should be a self-report that I didn't get my supervision this month. If they don't self-report within the next 30 days, that could be a separate ethics violation.
Right. Yes.
because you have self-report back on the supervisor as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the supervisor has their own thing going on, but right. So the RBT could be looking at two, I don't know, charges,
Right.
two violations. Yeah.
The way I read it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
So now we're going to look at some scenarios. The first one is an RBT worked 60 hours in September. They received 2 supervision meetings, 1 group for 2 hours and 1 individual for 1 hour. 1 observation occurred. Is this compliant? So think about the slide, a few slides back that we read about group and individual. Any thoughts? Is this compliant?
No.
No. Do you know why?
Oh, yeah, because the individual has to be more than group.
Correct.
Has to exceed individual group cannot exceed individual hours.
And it has to be at least 50% or greater.
Don't they
Yeah.
need more than 1 observation? Or no? I can't remember. Was it 2 or 1? Wasn't there 2 and something?
Right. But this person received 2 meetings.
Okay.
You need 2 contacts per month.
Okay.
One
Okay. That's what it
individual.
was.
2 contacts, 1 observation with a client.
Okay.
All right. So the next one is, I'm going to read it to you. An RBT worked 80 hours this month. They received 4 total hours of supervision, 2 individual and 2 group, and 1 session included direct observation. Is this compliant? 80 hours. They received 4 total hours of supervision, 2 individual, 2 group, and 1 direct. Is that compliant?
Yes.
Make up. You're correct.
A
Yes.
lot of math. Okay.
5% of 80 is 4 hours. So both supervision types are balanced and 1 observation occurred. So they are compliant. All right. Another one. An RBT worked 100 hours. They received 3 hours of group supervision and 1 hour of individual. Is that compliant?
No,
No. Do we know why?
because they only got 4 hours and they need 5.
So group supervision was 3 hours and individuals 1. So the group exceeded the individual hours. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, but I think Jasmine was also right that they
Mhm.
didn't get the total number of supervision hours either.
Correct.
Yeah.
Both of those are correct. Yes.
And there's one more reason why it's not compliant.
No contact?
No,
Wait.
right, no direct observation with a client.
Yep.
Good job, everybody.
Own it. You're using your, I always tell my students, kiss your brain. You're working so hard.
That's great.
We'll do 2 more. An RBT worked 90 hours. They had 3 total supervision hours, all group sessions, and 1 observation took place in a group. So what's the very first red flag we see?
All group sessions. That right there should be a big
And the last one, an RBT worked 40 hours. They had 3 hours of individual supervision and 1 direct observation. So 5% of 40 is?
Sorry, I'm trying to follow in my head, but it's not working. So I'm just.
Talk it out. So the RBT worked 40 hours and they had 3 hours of individual supervision and 1 direct observation. So we know they got their direct observation and we know 5% of 40 is the 2 hours required. So they're compliant. All right. Great job, everybody. All right. just a few more questions. We're just going to make sure y'all are really listening. How many supervision contacts are required monthly? You can hold up your fingers. Yes.
2.
Separate contacts per month. What percentage of hours must be supervised? You can hold up your fingers. Yes. And how many direct observations per month? You can hold up your fingers. At least 1. Yay! Y'all all did great. All right.
Okay, so for the summary and wrap up, supervision ensures quality, ethics, and compliance. 5% hours, 2 contacts, 1 observation required. Documentation is essential, and both RBTs and supervisors share responsibility. So supervision is not just a requirement, it's part of what makes ABA work. So at this time, we're going to ask each one of you to write 1 action step they will take to strengthen their supervision practices. So we'll give you a few minutes and you're going to write down and then we'll share an action step that would help, that would strengthen your supervision practice. So everybody take 2 minutes, write you an action step. I feel like I need the Jeopardy music.
Do 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 do.
Should have thought about it. I would have played music.
Yeah. So Jasmine put logging my hours daily. That's what she put in the chat. That is a good one. So I'll review the RBT's data sheets weekly to catch errors early.
Nice one.
So we can go around and share whoever wants to go next.
I just put having an RBT log.
That was kind of like mine, just getting all the like supervisory resources, like the log and everything.
Any others?
I'll share mine. So mine is to use the new RBT supervision tracker to document observations and sessions, even though I'm not quite in the role yet, but just to help get familiar with the tracker and the log. So
Jenny, did you write an action step?
Nope.
No,
Flip it.
you don't need one.
all right.
Okay, I think we got most everybody. All right. So for future trainings, we'll have 2 more trainings. The next one will be RBT certification, ethics, and fidelity. We'll dive a little bit deeper into that. And then the third one will be RBT supervision tracker and implementation, which is what we were talking about. We're going to dive deeper into that. And those will be much more in depth. This was kind of like an overview.
And I think we're gonna I talked to Jenny last night. The fidelity would be really going through like the scenarios of actually looking at an RBT and a client, and you as a supervisor distinguishing what's, when you might need to step in or intervene, or if they're doing a great job. Really looking at the fidelity part of it. And the tracker and implementation is kind of like the implementation part would be more of the day in the life of. So that's something to look forward to. We hope you all come back.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Much more fun when we have people here.
So here's our references. We really use the BACB board, and then our Cooper book and Bailey and Sellers. And thank you. We do hope you all get to come to our next few. We do have some time, and so we talked about going back to look at the data checker and letting everyone kind of fill it out. But Jenny mentioned at the beginning of the class talking through some ethics scenarios. So was everyone good with talking through some ethics?
Sure.
Either one, because I know several of you have been behavior technicians and several of you have had difficult situations. Does not mean they were not good at times, but they were also difficult, partly because of being new, because of being short-staffed, whatever the reasons were, they were difficult. So we can talk about those and what could be done differently, or we can go back and look at filling out that form. And I would love to have any of you that are RBTs or have been, if you have a form from your workplace, just to see what's missing on ours, because we made it up. So it was just trying to figure out what the board says we have to have, and me trying to scroll back in my mind to what I've used previously, but you know, that was so many computers ago, I don't even have anything saved. So I'd love to see what currently working people are using out there to do your fidelity checks and your billing for RBTs. So ethics or forms, what do you guys want to do for a minute?
I'm good with whatever.
Ethics that you're, and you were in RBT?
I can't hear you, Cameron. Say it again.
You know, if she, Rochelle had any.
Rachel. Say it Texan. Say it Texan. Rachel. About 5 syllables.
Serious, I know she's been an RBT before.
What exactly? Like
Ethical concerns.
ethical concerns. Well, I know that so some insurances will take you as a behavioral technician, some will take you as a RBT. So like in certain clinics, you start out as a BT, but then you have to sit to take the RBT exam because you're limited to the amount of clients you can work with. If you can't pass the test or something like that. So you got to be RBT because that's like how the document goes with billing. Another issue can sometimes be short staff. Like, so you're one-on-one, which is different than the school setting. So like sometimes you're short staff. You can't really technically leave a client with someone else, you know, and we even had to implement how long it took bathroom breaks because of the fact that I'm billing for this person and this person is billing for that person. So I shouldn't be sitting here with 2 or 3 people for a limited amount of time, because then those service minutes are not actually accounted for where they're supposed to be. So we actually had a meeting about that before as well.
There's a lot of nitty gritty on that. And what Cameron and Jessica were presenting mostly today were the board's guidelines. We didn't even really touch on the insurance guidelines, but other than maybe a school district, and all the school districts I've worked in, the kids that got RBT services were still being funded through insurance. But sometimes they're not. There might be like a one-on-one paraprofessional, whatever that might be called in the school, that is functioning like a behavior technician, but possibly not registered and supervised, all the things, but not billing insurance-wise. Once you start billing insurance, the whole thing gets different. Quisha, I know you worked for a brief moment in a clinic. Were you guys, Rachel or Quisha, ever, or even Camilla, I'm not sure where she went. I've got, if your video's not on, I don't have you on my screen, but I saw that she was here. And I think Jasmine was even in RBT. Were you guys ever involved in chargebacks from insurance companies when a technician didn't make their 5% supervised time?
Not that I know of.
No?
I don't know either.
Okay. And Camilla says no, because I was involved in one of those when somebody else's behavior analyst didn't provide the supervision. The behavior analyst then left. So now the RBT was mine. And, you know, it takes 3 to 6 months for insurance billing to get put in, to be processed and get sent back and all of that. And then all of a sudden they're going, but wait a minute. Susie, whoever she was, didn't get the right supervision from John before he left. And now Jenny's trying to clean up the mess. So what are the ethical violations here?
Would that be service delivery, like continuity?
Well, tell me more.
So I don't know. I know like when you have insurance and they process that authorization, I've had issues with the authorization taking so long. So I'm, as an RBT, I'm going every day like I'm supposed to, because that's what my schedule says. But I'm there, but what am I working on? Because the process of like waiting for the authorization and new goals are coming in. So like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And if I talk to the BCBA and she said, oh, we're working on this, but wait, okay, I'm not tracking it in what I'm supposed to be tracking it in, because they still got all this old information that's supposed to. And one time it took like a month and a half for us to get things switched from one to another. So it's like I'm working with this girl on the same thing I've been working all summer, but you said that we're supposed to be doing this. So that was definitely confusing, because it was like I'm here providing services, but what am I really providing services for?
That's different, but another interesting thing, right? So at an initial eval or an every 6-month re-eval, you have to now go get new authorization and get somebody to sign off on that plan of care. And I will tell you, depending insurance to insurance to insurance to insurance to insurance, I don't want to say they make it up, but sometimes it's secret what the rules are. In California, I'm like, where do I live? In California, one of our big providers, the Behavioral Health Partners Network, BHPN, I don't remember what the P stands for. And so when we would send in an authorization, a report that got reviewed and updated, we would have to get on the phone on Thursdays and go talk to the behavior analyst for the insurance, who was trying to make sure that we were really doing quality services and they just weren't paying for fluff. And so you would have to show up and justify why you were asking for everything. Now, as scary as that was, right? And I had been a behavior analyst for 12 years already, but as scary as that was, it was really an opportunity to build good rapport with the lady who was doing all of those reviews. And sometimes it was just a formality, but it was also a place where we could say, hey, you know what? We turned in this report yesterday. The current authorization ends on Friday. Can we go ahead and update the goals? And she was so cute one time. She's like, yeah, because we don't care what your goals are. We give you the authorization for funding. You're the expert. You know what your goals are. As soon as you decide they're the right goals, you change them and start working on them. Now, we would have never known that. We would have been where Rachel was, spending a month and a half working on old stuff, waiting for somebody to send her a checkbox on the new stuff. But that's a really good question. And as the BCBA, if there's a person who does that, a reviewer, an auditor, a peer-to-peer review, it would be great to get on those and find out what that rule is. Now, if you're waiting on authorization for funding, I recommend do not see that kid, because there is no guarantee from a business point of view that you're going to get paid. But if you can go ahead and change your goals so that you're updating and being current, because quite honestly, if I put in a goal and say 3 months in, the kid had mastered this, we're changing the goal. I'm not waiting for 6 months, and no insurance would expect me to wait for 6 months. So how come when we turn in asking for more dollars, do we do nothing for a month and a half? So in my book, the ethical dilemma there is the behavior analyst or the company not facilitating it for the behavior analyst to communicate with the insurance to find out what the rules really are so that we can provide best practice updated goals for our kid. But back to the billing nightmare. I mean, there were ethical violations all over the place. So the behavior analyst who left had an ethical violation that they didn't provide the services. They had an ethical violation that they didn't self-report. The RBT had a violation that they didn't make sure they got the 5%. They had an ethical violation that they did not self-report, right? Just all of the things. And the insurance company is now saying, you owe us money back, because what's getting billed for is supervision of the behavior technician. And it's like nobody was supervising that behavior technician. And so to some extent, I would think there should be, you know, checks and balances that you guys were talking about, that somebody on the office management billing side of our company should be checking and saying, okay, wait a minute, John said he's going over here 8 hours a month. Can I pull up on the schedule and do I see notes for 8 hours a month and spot check this stuff? Because when we get into looking at that, like that purple tracker, I mean, I lose sleep over that purple tracker, and I have not found anybody that's made an app for that yet. Now, believe it or not, and I know, have mercy on me, September and October scheduling were kind of crazy for Jenny, but I'm really good at scheduling. And I am really good at looking at, okay, if you look at that list, I think it was 40 clients and it was 23 RBTs, and those minuses were deficits. That's when they needed 5% supervision, but the insurance company was not paying for 5% supervision. So we had to work some magic and figure out, how do we get these technicians who I don't get paid for their services to show up and pay them? Because in California, if you show up, we have to pay you to attend a group meeting and get the supervision in so that we stay legal. And so there's just so much that goes into this RBT world.
The most problems I think I had is doing with in-home than within the clinical setting, because it's like you spread out everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the issue was with that.
Yep.
When I first started there in Houston too, only the Medicaid clients were the ones that you had to use a special app. And when you did that, it had GPS on your phone.
Yep.
So you signed it. But then when I got here, I guess they implemented it all around. So then there was a way to track were you here or not.
Yeah, we have that too out in California with Central Reach. Our problem in California is we, believe it or not, still have some places that are so remote, and some families that are still really struggling that they don't have Wi-Fi and their neighbor doesn't have Wi-Fi, and the closest Wi-Fi is about a half-hour drive away. It's a real thing. So
I remember I had a supervisor that would go outside the family's home after session. She would go inside and she would get a signature, and then she would leave like 10 minutes prior to session ending and say that she would bill for the whole 2-hour, 3-hour session.
Yeah, gosh. And see, again, this is where knowing your insurance people make a difference. Psychologists, counselors, they bill a 50-minute hour and spend 10 minutes documenting. That's a very common practice with regional offices out here in California. They expect you to do 45, 50 minutes with the client, and then they say you are paid to do your documentation. Some insurances, that's a yes. Some insurances, that's a no. And so you can't just across the board say, hey, we get a 50-minute treatment hour and a 10-minute documentation hour. And I know that's big practice out in the field. Got to make sure that that is really what the insurance is saying, because if it is, my goodness, use it. But if it's not, that's our job to know that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. I am going to go ahead and stop my recording here.